Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Erin Neely Cox. I'm the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, and it's my privilege to welcome my boss, United States Attorney General William Barr, to the greatest state in the Union, and to welcome Texas's senior Senator John Cornyn to the greatest district in his home state. We're thrilled to be here today to be talking with you about the Project Safe Neighborhoods initiative. We've got a great group of people here, a lot of people to hear from, with all different types of perspectives, and I'll introduce them to you as we go along. But first, Senator Cornyn is going to say a few words.
Well, thanks, Erin. Appreciate everyone being here, particularly our guest, the Attorney General, to discuss Project Safe Neighborhoods. We know recent tragedies like the tragic shooting in El Paso have renewed calls for a variety of initiatives to help improve public safety and make our communities more secure. And while there's no question there's more we can do to address the sort of tragic events that occurred in Dayton and El Paso, it's important to remember that those types of attacks represent about 0.3% of all gun-related deaths in the United States in 2017. In 2017, 60% of gun-related deaths were suicides, and 37% of gun-related deaths were homicides. The DOJ National Gang Center has estimated that approximately 13% of homicides in past years have been gang-related, an important element to be sure. So I think it's important for us not to look at this issue through a soda straw and focus on only one specific aspect of the challenge. It's critical we take a holistic look at the public safety challenges we're facing and come up with comprehensive responses like Project Safe Neighborhoods. And I know some of you, including the Attorney General, traveled to Dallas for this discussion, and I'm grateful to all of you for being here. I'm glad to see we have our local, state, as well as federal law enforcement partners represented, all of whom work to make sure Project Safe Neighborhoods is successful. Like many good ideas, Project Safe Neighborhoods has some roots in Texas. When I was Attorney General then, Governor George W. Bush and I initiated something we called Texas Exile. The Attorney General will recognize this. This actually grew out of a project in Richmond, Virginia called Project Exile at a U.S. Attorney's office there. But we scaled it up and made it statewide, working with our state and local law enforcement partners, as well as the federal government, to target violent offenders by concentrating our resources on those responsible for the most serious crimes. Multiple jurisdictions in Texas participated in the program, and the result was a significant reduction in crime rates and homicides. Texas Exile later became the basis, as I said, for the Department of Justice's program, Project Safe Neighborhoods, which has been going on for more than a decade. But unfortunately, because it had not been authorized by law, by statute, it was really a discretionary program of the department. It had previously, I think, waned in significance, but President Trump signed the bill that authorized this Project Safe Neighborhoods program into law and breathed new life, I believe, into its prospects. Safe Neighborhoods connects law enforcement officials, as I said, at the state, federal, and local level, and including all of the entities we see represented here, and make sure they're connected with federal prosecutors who have a unique capability to bring the tools they have available to them to make sure that we deter gun-related violence and from felons and others who can't legally possess firearms from doing so. These partnerships have been proven to reduce violent crime and make our communities stronger and safer. According to one Michigan State University study, they estimate that it had a 13% impact reducing violent crime where the Project Safe Neighborhood resources were applied. It also provides community outreach programs like this boxing gym, where these kids are offered a safe after-school program with their peers. We're in a targeted Project Safe Neighborhoods neighborhood here today, and we'll hear from our outstanding U.S. Attorney Erin Neely Cox shortly about the specific efforts here in this neighborhood. But first, let me just introduce our guest, the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr, who I'm proud to say leads the Department of Justice. Bill, thank you for being here today and for gracing us with your presence. We wish we could have had a little cooler weather, but we turned up the heat. This is normal here in August, and look forward to working with you and your tireless efforts to help the men and women who proudly serve us at the Department of Justice and bring justice and safety to all Americans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your leadership and all you've done over the years to support the Department of Justice, especially in the area of combating violent crime, and your specific support for Project Safe Neighborhoods. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. I'm deeply committed to Project Safe Neighborhoods and its whole approach, and I'd like to tell you why. When I first was Attorney General in 91 and 92, crime was at an all-time high. Violent crime was twice the level it is today. It was the highest level of crime in our history, violent crime. And we thought long and hard about how the federal government could make a contribution. And at that time, we started a program called Weed and Seed. And the idea behind that was to try to get over the debate as to whether the way to address this was by attacking root causes or by getting the violent criminals off the streets. And our view was we have to do both, because efforts to rehabilitate neighborhoods, to provide opportunity, to protect children from getting drawn into bad associates wouldn't work unless we could also neutralize the crime. And so the idea was we all have to work together and do it on a focused basis in neighborhoods. And it involved neighborhood leadership and participation, law enforcement, and all our various social programs, whether it be HUD or HHS or other federal programs, and then working very closely with state and local law enforcement. And we were seeing good results from that. Unfortunately, it dwindled after H.W. Bush left office, but I think it later became the basis for Project Safe Neighborhoods approach, which was even a more robust effort to apply the same principles. Also back in the 90s, the federal government really started going after gun violence and trying to find the chronic violent offenders and getting them off the streets as the way of reducing crime. These are the most dangerous people. These are the trigger pullers. And we started a program called Trigger Lock in those days. And that has now become an integral part of Project Safe Neighborhoods. This is a successful program. This prescription has worked to reduce violent crime. And in my view, it's the only way to really grapple with violent crime in our cities. Now, nationwide, over the past 30 years, violent crime has been cut in half. But recently, we're seeing some increases in some of our major cities. And so I'm committed to applying this approach and trying to expand our efforts in Project Safe Neighborhoods. One of the most important ingredients of it is private sector partners who come in and help us with programs like this gym. This is critical to protecting the youth in a community. And we couldn't operate, we couldn't succeed without that participation. Now, I'd like to say that Senator Cornyn was instrumental in introducing and passing the Project Safe Neighborhoods Grant Program Authorization Act in 2018, and that authorized grant funds to be made available to local Project Safe Neighborhood programs. Those funds go directly to the communities to meet the needs that are identified by the Project Safe Neighborhoods team, and I'm delighted to announce that the department is awarding Project Safe Neighborhoods Dallas more than $700,000 in grant money, and of that, $119,000 is going to go to the Dallas Police Department to enhance its efforts here, and $115,000 is going to Better Block, a nonprofit that is working with Dallas Project Safe Neighborhoods program to make this area a more appealing place to live, to work, and to gather. So I'll stop there, and I'd like to thank you for hosting this today, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, and we're grateful to General Barr and Senator Cornyn to be here and to discuss our district's Project Safe Neighborhood initiative. As all of you know, our office has a significant violent crime reduction effort that spans our entire district, and with presence in 100 of the 254 counties in Texas, this is no small job. But since I took office in November of 2017, we have stepped up our efforts on reducing violent crime and making an impact. And to support this broader effort, we kicked off Project Safe Neighborhood, and we kicked it off here first in Dallas as the centerpiece of our crime reduction strategy. It's a close collaboration between federal and local law enforcement that surges resources to particularly violent pockets of our communities. What's notable about PSN is its strategic focus. DOJ research supports the notion that 95% of an area's violent crime occurs in just 5% of the city. And PSN zeroes in on that volatile 5%, because we believe that when crime lacks a geographical locus, it dissipates. And when that happens, the entire city of Dallas will benefit. Importantly, this initiative is rooted in two complementary notions: data and instinct. When it came to identifying the portion of Dallas's 5% that we wanted to focus on, we leveraged data. We didn't merely rely on anecdotal information. We looked to the numbers. Last February, we started working with a top-tier criminologist to analyze the data from our partners DPD so that we could hone in on an area where we felt like PSN could really make a difference. And we are sitting in the midst of that neighborhood today, a vibrant and diverse community, a great community of around 98,000 people with a median income of just over $41,000, a median age of just over 30, and more than 21,000 children younger than the age of 14. But it was also an area plagued by a high number of robberies, aggravated assaults, and homicides. So it seemed like the perfect place for us to be. But there is also something very special about this neighborhood that I would like to mention. Just a few weeks after we internally designated this neighborhood as our PSN neighborhood, one of DPD's own, Officer Rogelio Santander, was gunned down on duty at a hardware store just 3.5 miles from this location. And we knew then that we had chosen the right neighborhood to focus on. And in his honor, we renamed our Operation 10394 for his badge number. Now, I understand that Officer Santander had a reputation for being an outstanding police officer, but I hear he was also passionate. He was also a passionate athlete. So it's fitting that we're here in a youth boxing gym to talk about how to leverage our partnerships with state and local law enforcement to tackle the crime that has plagued the neighborhood that he patrolled. The U.S. Attorney's Office is so proud to team up with our state and local partners, including the Dallas Police Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety, the FBI, ATF, DEA, and the U.S. Marshals, along with the city attorney and the district attorney and the city officials to keep our community safer. And I know everyone here, from the boots on the ground officers and agents to the leaders of the Department of Justice and the local and federal lawmakers, are very dedicated to this project. And I'm proud to report that according to our follow-up analysis, in the first 8 months of our PSN initiative, the crime in this neighborhood dropped a whopping 19.9%. And although we've struggled with a summer surge in crime that has manifested itself citywide, we're proud to report that within the PSN neighborhood, violent crime rates remain on the decline. And I was so glad to learn that none of the city's 40 homicides that occurred in May occurred inside this neighborhood. To date, our PSN task force has made more than 200 arrests and charged more than 140 offenders with federal crimes. But those numbers do not tell the whole story. We recognize that taking out the criminal element will not be enough to get us across the finish line. Targeting offenders without more just cannot accomplish what this community needs. So as part of the program, our team has attended more than 100 community events to share a new vision for the community and hear from the community as to what would benefit them. And that's where the instinct comes in. The PSN officers and agents who live and work in this neighborhood have an intuitive understanding of what resonates in this community. And as part of the process, we have engaged city and community leaders nonprofits, and others who can help make a difference here. They know how to cultivate the relationships that are vital to our success, and we rely on those relationships and those people to build a foundation of trust so that residents feel comfortable calling law enforcement when they see something that isn't right. And that is essentially the key. We need to change the ecosystem, building a community that's comfortable, supporting, and being supported by law enforcement. And at the same time, this community, through its leaders and business owners and citizens, needs to be developed and transformed into a place that is safe and meaningful for its residents. So I'm very proud of my team at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm proud of all our partners. I'm indebted to the many officers and agents and prosecutors who have spent countless hours in this Forest Audelia area and the Five Points area. Bottom line, this is a very collaborative initiative that draws upon the collective wisdom of the whole community. Join together, reach one goal: to reduce violent crime in the entire area and make a difference in the lives of the people in this community. So I'm now going to turn it over to Dallas's acting police chief, David Hughes. DPD has been a critical partner to us in this effort. They have been with us from the beginning, and he can share a perspective on how he believes it's going.
The Dallas Police Department was so appreciative when The Dallas Police Department was so appreciative when U.S. Attorney Erin Neely Cox came to us and said that she wanted to initiate a Project Safe Neighborhood initiative here in this community. We were even more honored when she came back to us and said, let's do this initiative in honor of Officer Santander. So it meant even more to us at that point, what we were going to be able to achieve, not only for the community, but in his honor. So we were very much appreciative of the fact that she was a part of everything that we were trying to do but had struggled with as a department to combat violent crime in this community. We knew that it took more than the Dallas Police Department to truly make a difference. So to bring in the state, federal, and other local partners that are part of PSN, along with the backing of the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office, was really what we needed to try to move forward and make some truly sustainable gains for this community in the way of violent crime reduction and really creating a better way of life for everybody that is here. But we knew that even with all the power of all these agencies and our elected city officials that were putting time and effort into it, that without the component of community engagement, that we wouldn't be successful in the end and it wouldn't be sustainable. So that was a big part of what this PSN initiative was about. It wasn't just about us coming in and removing the people that were creating havoc in the community by constantly doing violent crime after violent crime. It had to be more. We had to have the community as a part of the initiative to assist us in every turn that we made and guide us, tell us what's happening, tell us what you need, tell us what direction we need to go. They see the community in a different way than when we're in the community. When we're in the community, people act different. When we leave the community, things go back to the way they were before we got there, and we need to know what's happening. We need to be there, them to be the eyes and ears for us. So that's what's happening. That's how we are promoting this initiative. That's how the community is engaged. That's why we've seen the success. Our team, led by a sergeant and 16 officers, has removed 56 guns from this area. We know, because we've struggled with violent crime in this city, we know that there's guns, gangs, and drugs are the recipe for disaster in not only this neighborhood, but in every other neighborhood that's plagued by violent crime. So with their focus, the focus of our federal partners and our state partners, being able to rid the community of those individuals that are committing the crime and get those guns off the street is what is helping us to be successful. But like I said, there's that other piece. It's the community piece. It's the engagement piece. It's this boxing gym. It's doing more. It's not enough to arrest your way out of this situation. If you don't change it from the inside out, it'll go back to the way it was. So we're committed. We're not going to stop. We've only just begun in this community. So I just want to end it by thanking everybody here that's in this community to help not only the citizens that live here, but help the Dallas Police Department. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chief Hughes. We very much appreciate you being such a great partner as well. Next, I'd like FBI Special Agent in Charge Matt DeSarno to talk about FBI's efforts in PSN.
Certainly. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you all for having us here today. This particular PSN project is a great example of exactly what Project Safe Neighborhoods is supposed to do, is bring partners together in law enforcement and the community with a focused effort of resources towards creating significant impact on the level of violence in the neighborhood. And as Aaron mentioned, we've had that type of result here, and we're looking to continue to move forward to make sure those results are long-term and lasting. So together with my federal partners at ATF, DEA, and the Marshal Service, and our state partners at DPS, and obviously led by the Dallas Police Department, we've worked on a strategy to conduct a regular cadence of enforcement operations in an effort to have an immediate impact on the violence and build an intelligence base that allows us to engage the community in a way that's more meaningful, and also ensure that our collective longer-term and more sophisticated investigations in this area and in the surrounding areas are actually directed against the right groups, the groups that are driving the violence, and the groups that are influential in moving violent crime in this area. So to date, the FBI team has partnered with our other agencies to seize 30 firearms, bring 21 federal cases, and initiate multiple new investigations in the area that hopefully will have long-term lasting impact. And I think that, combined with continued engagement with the community and continued focused partnership and continued focused resource and effort in this neighborhood, should lead to the long-term impact that we all want for this neighborhood. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we're going to hear from Jeff Boschek, Special Agent in charge of the ATF.
Thank you, Aaron. To the folks from Dallas that are here and those that'll read about it, Aaron's leadership is why this thing's working. I've been part of Project Safe Neighborhoods and Project Exile and different programs around the country, and the dedication that she and her team put into keeping this community safe is like no other place else in the United States of America. Whether it be on a Saturday morning putting door hangers on doors or sitting in dunk tanks when it's 110 degrees out. That's what we're doing as part of a team here with everybody sitting at this table. Everybody's gonna talk about stats, and then this is my day job and my night job. I'm a coach, and stats don't lie. And what you're doing and what your team's doing here is a true show of what the dedication from all these agencies together can do to help protect our communities. ATF's making sure that we're trying to do the best we can to prevent bad actors from getting their hands on firearms and committing crimes, whether that be working with our industry partners throughout the Dallas region, specifically here in the PSN neighborhood, to keep guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them, or if it's doing traditional ATF undercover work, or what else we traditionally do in the law enforcement arena. We're further looking towards technology, using ATF's NIBIN ballistic technology to identify the real trigger pullers out there, the people that are causing harm and really doing damage in our communities. We're fully committed to continuing our partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Attorney General, for the opportunity here.
Thank you, Jeff. We also have Eduardo Chavez, who is Assistant Special Agent in charge of DEA, to tell us about what they've been and how they've been contributing to our PSN neighborhood.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Senator, Mr. Attorney General, Ms. Neely Cox, for having us here. The DEA is in a unique position simply because as a single mission agency, drugs are our focus, bar none. One would argue that one of the biggest priorities for a drug trafficking organization is to garner a profit. And they're garnering that profit on the backs of people who are struggling with addiction. And our job here is, whether it's a gram or an ounce or any other amount of illegal drugs that we are able to find in PSN and seize through our partners through DPS or DPD, that we begin cultivating that information and chasing that gram that turns into an ounce, that turns into a kilo, that ends up sourcing individuals outside of the PSN area and landing profits in those drug traffickers' hands. And that is our primary focus, to be able to take that gram and work up the food chain to be able to seize those assets inherently tied to violent crime, and to be able to focus on the sources of supply that are feeding this area. And I think that we have done a wonderful job over this last year, collaborating together I know the DEA alone, not including Dallas PD and Texas DPS statistics, have taken over $180,000 worth of illegal drugs, of denied revenue for these drug traffickers off the streets just in this PSN area alone. And again, we just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this program.
Thank you. Next, we have Rick Taylor, our U.S. Marshal here.
Thank you, Aaron. Senator, Attorney General, pleasure to be here this afternoon. In 2004, the North Texas Fugitive Task Force was established, and the purpose of that task force is to serve our state and local partners. And we go after the worst of the worst, the most violent offenders. And over those years, there's been several and numerous different enforcement efforts, initiatives, operations, such as Project Safe Neighborhood. Throughout all of those operations, we remain committed to the Department of Justice, to Dallas PD, to other state and local jurisdictions in our jurisdiction to pursue those most wanted felons, whether it's for guns, drugs, gangs, homicides, you name it. Our men and women, with our state and local partners and federal as well, go after those folks regardless of where they're at and what time of day it is, or on whether it's on a weekend. Like I said, we remain committed to this effort, and we enjoy the partnership that we have and the community engagement that we have, and we're here to serve. Thank you.
Rick. We also have Jeff Williams, Regional Director of Texas Department of Public Safety, and it's great to have you at this table, Jeff. And I know, you have been helping so much in the city of Dallas in the last few months with your troopers here. And you've certainly been addressing certain hotspots in Dallas, and one of them has been PSN, and we're so thankful for that help. We'd love it if you could share with us just a little bit about those efforts.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I want to start by saying thank you for your leadership on this. Senator, thank you for leading the path this as well and carrying that initial program to where it is today. It doesn't just happen, and so we appreciate you taking a step with that. Mr. Barr, thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you here in our city, and your statements about what you support and what we're doing is very helpful to the law enforcement community. On behalf of the troopers and the police officers, they need to hear that more, and thank you for carrying that message forward. And I'll be forever grateful for Erin Neely Cox for leading this. She's been the anchor of this group, and certainly we're trying to be the best partner that we can. With that said, Texas DPS wants to be the best partner to the Dallas Police Department or other federal partners in this effort. We've had participation in this program since its inception. We've obviously stepped up our efforts here during this summer, and we've had some enormous success in my view. I draw you back to the original conversation that was made earlier about the fact that this was a data-driven effort. We are here because of data that got us here, and so as being at Texas DPS, what we wanted to be was the best partner the Dallas Police Department had in the city and the community, and so we wanted to take on the heaviest challenges, and so we went to the chief and others and said, hey, tell us where the places are that we really need to focus, and this was one of them. Through that effort, we've had some pretty good successes, not only here, but as everyone's heard in the rest of the city as well. Since our operation has really been stepped up in June, we've made over 1,000 arrests in Dallas. 446 of those have been felonies. And so many of those took place right here in this PSN. And I think the men and women who've been working toward this effort have done a great job of removing people that needed to be removed from the community. And I'm very proud of their efforts. I also want to say that I said on day one when we started this program that we wanted to be not only in partnership with the Dallas Police Department and our federal partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office, but we wanted to be in partnership with the community. And I appreciate the City Council's support of that. I appreciate the community members that have come up to us and said thank you for being here because we have had an impact on it, and I'm very proud of the work that they've done. We want to continue that partnership. And we look forward to working on this effort in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, an important aspect of PSN draws upon city leaders, and we certainly do thank the city leaders that you have here today. We have Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Adam Magoo, who's the council member from District 10, and Council Member Jennifer Gates from District 13. Each of them represents a critical part of the PSN neighborhood, and we've been working closely with you guys from day one. It's been amazing to work with you and your teams, and we've been working listening to you and hearing from you about what the community wants and needs, and you've just been such a critical part of the success that we've had thus far. So I want to thank you for that and give you a chance each to talk about our work here. First, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Magoo.
Thank you. 4 years ago at this intersection right out here, the people that lived in the neighborhoods and the apartment communities right here had maps drawn on how not to come through this intersection and get to their homes. This is why it is so crucial, the work that we're doing. And I want to personally thank you on behalf of my community and our city for your efforts to get this here, Senator. It's amazing. We appreciate you. I love your comments. I was part of Weed and Seed way back in the day, and it's hard for me to describe some of what we're doing without using some of the terminology because it works so well. You cannot, we say it all the time, we cannot arrest ourselves out of these problems, and we can't just community service our way out of it either. It has to be a combination, and that's what we're seeing here. This prescription, as you said, works, and it's working here, and I am forever grateful for the efforts that are coming into this place. A lot of it's prescriptive and strategy, but so much of it is people. And under this leadership of U.S. Attorney Erin Neely Cox and the people that she's assigned to her team, Assistant City Attorney P.J. Meidel is an absolute rock star. He has not just the desire to go after these issues, but he has a heart to stand up at a community meeting and ask the people, how many of you don't feel comfortable walking outside in your community after 6 p.m. and watch 70–80% of the hands go up? And that's what drives our efforts each and every day. We've created a North Lake Collins Public Improvement District in this area. We've had city leadership go after and file lawsuits and work on eliminating some of those issues in this community. We've had people that care coming in and putting in some basketball courts and other things, and we know what works, and that's why I'm so encouraged about this particular intersection, because through the partners that the U.S. Attorney has brought into this, we have the opportunity now to turn that intersection that people were avoiding at all costs into a destination for the people who live here to come to a place that they can be proud of, that they can be excited about, that they can commingle together, they can have community, real community, and build those kind of relationships. And so that's why the police department here, the reason we're sitting in a boxing gym right now is because the former chief said we need a boxing program. We need something for these kids to do. It was his idea, and that went through the Greater Dallas Apartment Association. They put all the money into this project to make it happen. You've got great leaderships through the police department that spend every day, blood, sweat, and tears in this place, in this neighborhood, and making a difference. And so with all my heart, I appreciate your efforts, and I hope that we continue to make this, the project in the parking lot to continue to go on, the amazing leadership that we have here with Director Williams and all the partners at this table. I'm excited. I think that we're in the next few months, we're going to see that domino fall in the right direction, and we're going to see this neighborhood right here not be one of the top 2 crime areas in the city, but be a place where people enjoy and are proud to come home to. Thank you.
I'm excited about it too. Councilmember Gates.
Thank you, and welcome to Dallas. I'm going to personal thanks to Attorney General Ms. Cox. You've been an incredible leader, and thank you, Senator Cornyn, for making the funding available, and for Attorney General Barr. Thank you for coming to Dallas and seeing the work that's happening here, and giving us the opportunity to introduce you to our neighborhoods. I've represented Vickery community now for over 6 years as District 13 representative, and people think of District 13, it's 23 square miles, and the Vickery Meadow neighborhood is about 3 square miles of 30,000 people living in 110 multifamily complexes. Often people think of 13 as single-family homes in affluent neighborhoods, but essentially it's almost a third of my district. And I've proudly been able to represent and advocate for this community over the last 6 years. It originally was built for young singles, so it didn't have a lot of activities or green space. It was before we made walkable neighborhoods. It was built primarily in the late 70s, early 80s, and started to decline in the 90s. Currently, of those 30,000 residents, they speak over 40 languages. 80% of the families earn less than $50,000 annually. There's over 31 nonprofits that are engaged in providing services and working really hard on behalf of the residents. DISD has done strong investments. We have one high school, 1 middle school and 3 elementary schools. They're currently replacing one of the elementary schools. But this area of 5 Points, which we're going to talk about next, is really the heart. It's one of the either top 1 or top 2, not something I'm proud of, tag areas, which are hot spots in Dallas. 2% of all the crime in Dallas, violent crime, happens at this spot. And to give you an idea, geographically, it's only 3/1000ths of the land mass of Dallas, but yet 2% of the violent crime is happening here. We've been working hard to make improvements. DPD has done a fabulous job. We've had different initiatives. We have been championing infrastructure changes. We're building our first public library in the area, and we're working on code and to make the neighborhood clean, but change doesn't happen fast enough. So when U.S. Attorney Cox came to me and said, we want to bring this program and this opportunity to this part of your district, I was thrilled. And I was thrilled that it had the community focus and that it was going to be about building trust with law enforcement, which this neighborhood, lacked. So, I know, I'm sure I feel just like Senator Corner, our primary responsibility is to keep our residents safe. That's what I think government is supposed to do, and we don't always do it well in particular neighborhoods. And these families, we know that they'll thrive, and if they have the same safe communities that we see in other parts of Dallas. In February, PJ Meidel and I had the opportunity to sit down with parents and students, and we heard the stories. Their walk to school, there's no buses in the area. They walk from these 110 multifamily complexes to school, and they feel they're passing, drug dealers, and they're passing, they're being intimidated, and they don't feel safe. So they run to and from school, and they can't enjoy their neighborhood. So we are working the constant exposure to violence and crime and drugs. We heard about there's been two shootings, one in the middle of the day at a strip center right across the street from the middle school. And then another incident right there at the 7-Eleven at the same corner where an innocent man was sitting in his car and somebody walked up and just shot him for no reason. No connection, just no reason. The person pled guilty, said he just felt like shooting somebody. So these are the kind of just horrendous stories that put our children and our families, their safety threatened every single day. So creating this safe neighborhood is starting. We've heard about the numbers of crime reduction, and now I'm excited that we're moving to the next step with this funding to be able to infill that community with activities that are going to help make the community want to come out and have a vibrant, thriving neighborhood. So I'm thrilled that you've been able to make progress, but I know there's much more that needs to be done. And I know we're going to hear next. We've done the crime fighting, and now we're going to talk about how we can move the needle and really change the neighborhood and the next steps that you're going to hear about. I'm not going to steal Better Block's thunder, but it's how we can really prevent crime through environmental design. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you over the past year, and we really look forward to continuing to move the needle.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Gates. And it's a perfect segue to the last but certainly not least. We have here Jason Roberts, who's the board chair of Better Block, and he's going to be working with both of these areas of the neighborhood to really help transform the neighborhood into a place where people really want to be and gather. We're so excited to be working with you on it. Thank you so much for all your work thus far. And we're excited about the grant money that we're getting and the private sector money that's being donated to help with just those kind of efforts that are going to be so critical to this neighborhood. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. And we're honored to be asked to take part in this project. Our work started about 2010 in the southern Dallas area where I live, where we were kind of known as the bad part of town, having a very low perception of safety, a lot of blight, a lot of disinvestment. And I think as a community, we just felt helpless. We didn't know how to make change. After studying concepts in and around crime prevention through environmental design and things like that, started realizing there is a parallel between how the built environment looks and feels to crime itself. And so we initially started talking to architects and planners, and they would give us renderings and drawings, and we'd spend a lot of money and do plans, but those plans would get put on a shelf. And so we started saying we were suffering from rendering fatigue. We just wanted to actually make change in our own neighborhood. So we just took our neighbors together on a weekend, and we started going in, adding our own lighting. We added our own, we turned the sidewalks into cafe seating environments. We created a lot of small businesses in the areas because we started realizing it was important for us to get more eyes on the street. And so what's happening right now in these neighborhoods is you've got a lot of people here, but they're hiding in their homes because they're afraid to come out. So, and so it's counterintuitive for people to think, well, if there's crime in the area, bring more people into the area. But that's exactly what you want to do. You want to make the spaces more irresistible for people. So you'll see on the board behind you just one of the initial renderings we have, but we're taking these large parking lot areas and pavement areas and turning those into public plazas. We're inviting small businesses to come into the mix, so we'll actually have, again, people taking care of the area, feeling a sense of ownership as well, adding better lighting. We're painting murals on the buildings. And we don't do this in years or months, we do this in days. In fact, within 30 days, we'll be swinging hammers. That's the way our organization works, and it works that way because of our own frustration where we can't wait for these problems. There's a school in the area where there's children passing by, folks that are up to no good on a daily basis. So we need to act now. So we're very honored to take part and grateful for it to be part of this project, so thank you.
Thank you, and I know we've got some visuals of what's going to be happening in the 5 Points area, and more to come on that. And you're right, it's made possible through the grants and through the donations that we have, and we're really excited about that being an added element to the project. So with that, I think we've heard from everyone. Senator E.G., thank you so much for being here today, and that wraps it up.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be taking a quick tour of the facility now.
Okay, wonderful.
I think the security detail.
I'm here, Jane.
Just somewhere on this line.
Or is it a hold the button?
No, it's a switch. You'll see on off.
Make sure that, no one gets hit.
Hey, Damon, where the light is, blue light,